What's up, conscious creators? Alex here. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to dissolve the ego. I'm going to be running through what the ego specifically is, why we'd even want to dissolve it, and 2 ways to go about doing that. So stay tuned till the very end of this video so you can get all the information and apply it to get the positive results. Now, just before we get into it, a few more slots have opened up for the free one-to-one with me to see if you'd be a good fit for the Consciousness Revolution program over at speaktoalex.com. So wait till the end of the video for more details on that. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. So let's start from the top. What is ego? Ego is identification to the separate sense of self in the mind. You know, you go around a lot of the day talking to yourself in your head. Don't worry, I do it too. We have this sense of self in our minds, these thought narratives that go on, and they often have an I in there, a me in there, a sense of self in that thought narrative. For example, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Think that thought, there's the I in there, and then you identify with the I in that thought, and then you feel not worthy. That's a basic example. See, a lot of people think ego is just arrogance, but you can also have an ego where you're looking down upon yourself as well. You're shrinking yourself. You're creating a reality where you're not worthy or deserving enough as well. And often this arrogance that we see externally with a lot of people is just a cover for that anyway. So yes, we need our separate sense of self in the mind. It gives us the sense of who we are in this world and our place in it, and how we relate to other people and how we relate to ourselves on one level. But there's a deeper level underneath that. There's the awareness within which this story narrative with the sense of self in it in the mind arises within. Is there 2 of you? One that sees the thoughts, listens to the thoughts about yourself, the memories, the projections into the future. Is that yourself? Or is it the one who's observing it? You have thoughts about yourself, and then you have the awareness within which the thoughts arise. And most people's experience is that many of these thoughts are negative, repetitive, over-worrying, and downright dysfunctional a lot of the time. I've experienced it myself. And it gets worse the more of a negative lens you see your life through. And so how do we liberate ourselves from that? Not just getting rid of the sense of self completely, but recognizing ourselves as deeper than that. Recognizing ourselves as the awareness within which those thought narratives arise within, and not with our attention just contracted down onto the thought narratives themselves and talking to ourselves in our heads all the time, because that is generating almost unending suffering. Now, some people say that if you take psychedelics, it quietens down the default network in the brain, default mode network, the DNM. And this is actually the biological structure that's been shown to have a correlation with that separate sense of self in the mind. So if psychedelics quieten the default mode network, maybe this is why people experience this quietening of their separate sense of self in the mind and feel this innate connection to everything and peace. Because think about it. If you don't have the separate sense of self, you're just going to have the experience of yourself being everything, of yourself being the awareness within which this experience arises, and not with your attention sort of contracted down onto this separate sense of self in the mind, this thought narrative about you and about your life and about your worries about the future and anxieties and insecurities and mental blocks and overthinking and mentally complaining and God knows what else. So you want to have that separate sense of self to be able to plan things, to be able to think about the future, to be able to do useful reflection. There's many uses to this tool, but the tool has possessed us. The tool has become something that is like an entity in our minds that we believe ourselves to be. So how do you dissolve it? You start to do either two things. There's two routes to this. One is kind of more accessible and easier, and the other, to some people, might sound a bit abstract, but once you get it, it's just so simple. It's straight underneath your nose, but it's like too simple to even be seen. Perhaps you'll see what I mean. Now, one way to do this is to practice moving the attention from thought to sense perceptions, specifically using perhaps the body, the sensations of the inner body, or the breath as the anchor to the present moment. Now, what do I mean by that? This is a bit of an Eckhart Tolle kind of thing, right? This idea that there are easy access points to the present moment. Easy access points to awakening by going from thought to the inner body awareness, which is a sensation which is happening in the present moment. You see, thought is always about past or future, but anything within sense perceptions is happening in the now. So if I become aware of the inner sensations in my body right now, this is called Interreception as well. Maybe I can feel some kind of energy or tingling, or if you're sort of doing the sex transmutation path, sometimes you sort of get filled up with this sexual energy. If you're not sort of spending it all the time and it's building up within you, you can feel this energy, and you'll be able to feel it anyway. So it's just bringing the attention into the body. And notice that this isn't a thought, this isn't an intellectual thing. This is literally just moving your attention. Now, first of all, you're going to label it. You're going to say, oh, it's this, or it's that, or it's this, or it's that, because you're so used to just talking to yourself in your head. But I want you to just try and get more closer to the sensation, the raw sensations. Just actually feel the sensations. And for a lot of people, this isn't initially that comfortable, because this talking in the mind is generating so much sort of low-level discomfort and anxiety that when you put your attention in the inner body, there's this kind of uneasiness sometimes. But if you drop the resistance to that and just relax into it, paying attention to the sensation of the breath. What is this doing? You're taking attention away from being continually contracted down onto this thought narrative that arises like this nebulous field within the awareness, and puts it in the body, like some of that consciousness in the body, which helps you to become rooted in the present moment. Or you can use your breath. From thought to sense perceptions, if you only learnt one thing in your life, this would probably be the best thing, or maybe second best thing, that you ever learned. So what's the first best thing? This is the idea that's a bit more abstract. This is being aware of being aware. So you have this awareness within which your experience arises, and awareness it's like it can go out towards an object. And when I mean object, I mean any distinct thing that arises within your awareness. Just, plain actual objects like a phone or a cup or something like that, or sensations within the body, feelings, thoughts, distinguishable forms within awareness. Awareness kind of like contracts down onto those forms like a spotlight. This is going on throughout your entire day. You're going from thought to some of the things you're doing, and the spotlight of your attention is moving around in your mind and in around your environment. But awareness can also be aware of itself. If I ask you, are you aware? A lot of people try and go through the mind to get there, not realizing that the mind arises within the awareness, not realizing that you can go straight there. This is the direct path. This is non-duality. This is self-inquiry and then self-abidance, being aware of being aware and then resting there and making your home there. And you can do this at many repeating points throughout the day. Just become aware that you're aware, and you sort of zoom the attention back out. You allow, as Rupert Spira says, allow awareness to sink back into its source. For me, it's like a zooming out. I become more aware of my peripheral vision. I become more aware of, it's like the screen of the movie. Imagine your experience is a movie. Well, the movie has a screen. The movie has something that brings the movie into existence, into reality. It gives it its reality. So there's that same kind of thing within our reality. There's the awareness that gives rise to the form, that illuminates the form. Awareness is always shining in all experience. And it's becoming aware of that. Being aware of being aware. Being aware of yourself, your true self, prior to the thoughts about yourself. See, the thoughts arise within your awareness. There is a deeper self, the self, within which they arise. The one who's aware of the thoughts. And so do one of either of these things consistently and make it an investigation. Not necessarily a practice, because it's not exactly something that you need to do. You naturally are already this awareness. You naturally are already with the bodily sensations, but it's becoming aware of it and resting there. It's not so much a practice as it is actually the cessation of an activity, the cessation of the attention being contracted down onto the thought narratives constantly, and resting within the awareness prior to those thoughts. It doesn't mean the thoughts necessarily just stop. They might still be there. And sometimes you might really contract your attention down onto them to think something through, to plan something, to do something intellectual, and that's fine. This isn't an anti-intellectual position. But what it's doing is ending this entity's possession over you and making you act out all these weird behaviors that afterwards you think, why the hell did I do that? Because your ego was triggered and you were identified with it and you forgot who you truly are, the awareness. So either stay rooted in the body or be aware of your own awareness. Keep this consistently, or do both at the same time, and this is the route to dissolve your ego. Hope this helped. If you want to go deeper on this within a program and you've got a specific problem that you and I could perhaps work on, head over to speaktoalex.com and tell me about where you are and where you want to go, and we'll see if we can get a call booked for us to talk about potentially working together long enough for longer if the fit's right. Hope this helped. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It helps the algorithm. Peace.